Welcome back to the Glint Standard. Today we're going to be talking about branding. So what is branding?
Ooh.
It's a mess.
Yeah, no, it can be, depending on how your branding is.
Right.
So branding by definition,
Right.
as I would say it, I think a lot of people have a misconception of what branding is, right? So
I agree with that.
branding isn't just your logo or your colors or your font or your any of that. It's a combination of all those things, but really the reality of branding is it's the impression somebody feels when they engage with your organization or your company, right? So what is the perceived feeling that they're having, right? So it's less about really you and more about how you're projecting that out.
Across the board with everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's more about the person that's perceiving that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really your target, right? And so to me, branding is about them, not necessarily you, right? It's what you do, your combination of your colors, your logo, the way you even answer the phone is part of your branding, right? The way that you present yourself, how you dress, all of that is branding. But it's less about your actual company, more about the target audience you're going after.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's an interesting way to look at it. Because you're right, it isn't a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to remember. You can't touch and feel the brand.
Right.
Right? And everybody, a lot of times, logo is the brand. It's not. It's an identifier of what your company is.
Right.
Right? If I talk to you, or if somebody talks to you or talks to me at Glint, do they get the same feeling? It's the best way to maybe define it a little bit, but your audience plays into that too. Because we may come across, we're not, but if we were this jacked up, muscle-bound, tough-looking dudes,
Hey, speak for yourself.
and that's the image we say we want to have for our company, right?
Yeah.
Our audience may not like that. So it's still branding, but is it the right kind of branding?
Well, and that's the other thing is it's that type of presentation could be really good for a gym, right? Because it establishes success at that
Where
point.
do I want to go as a consumer?
Right.
Yeah.
At that point, and it tells you it's not a Planet Fitness where everybody's accepted and it's all cool and all.
And those are very
grunt,
valid
right?
places to go to, but depending on what your goals are, and what you're looking for, do I want to be a little more personal, one-on-one attention? I have a very specific goal. I want to get there quickly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the big box gyms aren't the place to go.
Right.
Maybe it's more specialized or super uncomfortable, way out of shape. I don't want to be judged. I feel more comfortable in those big box places.
Yeah.
There could be a million reasons why.
But your branding helps establish that within the consumer's mind to be able to better make a decision on which is best for them.
True. You think about that for a company, but you can also do it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That can confuse a lot of people when you're working for a company and that brand presence means something, but maybe it's coat and tie. Not as much as that as there used to be. But then you go home and you're, I don't know, a heavy metal rock star, and you play in bands at night.
Right.
And you put on this wig and you got this eyeliner going on, and that's your personal brand at that point based on what you love and who you are.
Right.
So you could have a real disconnect if somebody runs into you in a business environment at that point and go, wow, that says a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, your hobbies will make you prone to be when you're out.
True.
So, fun fact most people don't know about me is I actually cosplay as Captain America.
Yeah, that's good.
We've posted on it a couple of times on our social, but
because it's not Ryan.
It's not.
This is Chris Evans.
No, it's not. I wish.
That's Ryan.
I wish. But no, but if you ran into me at a charity event or a fun run or something like that, right, and you were I know you. And I'd be like, yeah, you do, right? Like, I'm just not in a shirt and tie like I normally am when you meet me. I'm in a Captain America outfit. So.
But not a big disconnect from our company brand either,
Not
about what we believe in and who we are, right?
Well, and I think we have the freedom to be very creative people as well at our company. And so that it fits and aligns with that of like, that's my creativity. I love doing that. It's my passion. And we talk about striving towards passion constantly here. So it fits and aligns with our brand.
Right. Why, part of what we do, we always focus on branding first. And that is mainly, the main reason for that. We've often experienced doing some really good marketing campaigns and driving people through the front door. They open that front door, and what they felt like they were going to receive is not being represented. Right. Sometimes it's somebody having a bad day, maybe on the client side. It's not receiving it the way that we told them it was going to be. And we find that a lot of times that's very misaligned. People are so excited about marketing and going out and doing that one-off thing or a campaign around, let's drive people to the door so we can sell more product type of thing, online or in person, right? And it gets missed a lot. Or maybe you got a 40% boost, 10% boost. Maybe it could have been more. The branding was more on point. So we always take the approach of branding first, not just because we're very good at the branding piece of it. We also have a proprietary process called the Brandscape that helps define. It's not about changing your brand. It's about, is your brand on point internally? Right?
Yeah, and I would say it's a lot of people. It's funny when we give, even our digital clients that come on board with us, we give them the Brandscape as soon as they come on, and we're like, and it's really a new thing that we started doing with all of our clients. So, but as we started to roll that out with new clients and give them the Brandscape first and have them fill it out and really go through it, you start to better understand their business of, they may not have it all figured out either. And it helps us come alongside as your agency and go, hey, branding really should be a focus. We found these elements and these colors and these schemes, right, that now we can help tell a better story. But we can do that because we've sat down, we've talked with you, we've had a conversation, you filled out the Brandscape. There's targeted questions in there that help us understand that. And so even though we're only running digital ads, we know that there's not going to be a disconnect when people come into your store. Maybe we're driving them into a landing page, and for whatever reason, it just feels way off from what we were doing. Like we have a credit union right now that we're running digital ads, but then we're going to build out a landing page and have videos and all these other assets that are going to match that same creative look and feel. People won't be completely thrown off when they go through the drive-through and they see a poster of the exact campaign that we were just running, right? They're like, I'm in the right spot. Right.
Yeah, and there's consistency is a big piece of that. What I see a lot is bigger to the company. Leadership is on a different page than maybe your mid-level managers and maybe your entry-level people. They see the company one way and everyone else sees it another way, depending on where they are. And then you take that and you do the same thing to their customers, right? And then you do it again to your partners or vendors, right? Are you getting the same story back across the board? And if you're not, there's an issue there and it has to be worked on. Sometimes it's on point. Maybe a few things here or there always are. It's okay, your brand's fine. Yeah, we need to move forward. Or we want to rebrand. Okay, tell me why. All right, this is the first thing we're going to do. And everybody's aligned. Your brand's on point. Are you just looking for a visual change to be a little more relevant in today's market? What is the reason for it? Because your brand is on point. Different conversations come from that, right?
Yeah, and I think, you kind of touched on it real quick, but like looking at your brand and advancing it, right? There's things like what's now called sonic branding, and that's literally sounds. Right? Not the voice, not anything, but just sound. So like we all know it, as soon as the iPhone dings and we hear that sound because they got a text message or a phone call, everybody knows that is Apple's brand. Right? So that's a great example of sonic branding that has happened and now integrated into everybody's brain. as brands are continuing to grow and expand, they need to now look at sonic branding. It was something that didn't exist 5 years ago, right? Or really hasn't been touched on. So now as you look at all the different parts of a brand, you have to analyze and look at all these different pieces that are making sure that they're all still in alignment.
So let's talk about those pieces of a brand. You know, what are those? You know, you have your brand essence. I think it's important to define that. Brand values, big piece. Those are the more emotional ties to try and connect employees, right, and a team that are going to communicate with customers.
Right.
That's why those become so valuable.
Right.
Others, logo mark. You know, the consistency and the look and feel of all of your marketing pieces.
Right.
If you're doing video, right, what does that look like? What is that sound?
Yeah.
Right. There's so many different pieces. Those are just a few. Any others you can think of to kind of tie that all together?
I mean, obviously, voice is another one. How you're speaking, that became very big when social media became so more of a necessity than ever before. How you're speaking on those platforms, how are we responding to negative and positive feedback as well, right? That's really important. Your brand voice is very important. Messaging, the words that you use, I would say that's another one. I would also just say, you know, one of the things that we like to look at when we're designing new logo mark or any of that, we also look at patterns, right? So is there a pattern, like a background pattern that could be used, a step and repeat, or a
just to start to tie everything together a little bit quicker, a little bit easier.
Yeah, and especially because, you know, some of our clients, nonprofit immediately comes to mind, but when we design them a logo or new branding or something like that, they don't always have the budget to be able to come back to us to do every single design, stuff, right? Yeah. So instead, being able to give them the assets and hand those over, it's kind of like, hey, here's the keys to your baby.
Follow the pathway.
Yeah, and you can give this to any designer, and they'll know how to start to assemble that new collateral piece for you, right? Because they can look at the branding guide, and they can take the patterns, and they can use the logo mark, and they can use the colors and fonts and all that.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
All right. Take a company. Is a company its own brand with its own voice, or is a company's voice and brand a combination of 2 or 3 people communicating for it?
The answer is yes.
You're just trying to get out of it easy now.
No. I think each company is a little bit different, right? Some companies are built on individuals. And they're very individual focused. So I think of like Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer, right? It's about Jim Adler. Yeah. It's not about Jim Adler and his team. It's Jim Adler, right? Yeah. And he has a very particular way that he speaks. I'm sure he has very particular catchphrases. And
when Jim is no longer that person, that company's brand image is going to be different.
Yeah.
There may be some nuances that stay the same, but it is going to change.
They will likely struggle, right? Because they don't know how to handle it, and they probably haven't set time aside to let go. When we don't have this one individual spokesperson, what do we do, right? Yeah. I think other times, especially when I think of social media, it can definitely be a collection of people within an organization, right? Depending on that organization side, how they respond to comments or, negative and positive feedback online. There could be a standardized text document that says we normally respond in this way, or a question about this is this,
which is putting those brand standards in place. Absolutely. Having a branding guide helps with that, because if somebody responds on our social channel, you respond to it or I respond to it, are they going to know I did or you did? And that's kind of the key to it. When you have multiple people, it has to feel like it's the same person, even if it's not.
Yeah.
Very hard to do. That's why the brand essence becomes so important. Because nobody can do it exactly the same.
So
right?
I would say, going back to always your mission and vision, right, statements, which is, I personally love those, even though I can't recite ours by heart. I just, whenever I meet with a new company, I want to meet the owner or the founder, right? Those are the people I want to talk to, because I'm like, why did you start it? Where did the name come from? What, like, how did this all begin? Right? There was a need, you filled it. Why? Right? And I love to then go to like one of the newest hires and go, so like, what do you think this company stands for? Like, what is it? What's the
See
mission?
what answers you get?
Yeah. How misaligned is it, right?
Or sometimes it's not. You're like, ooh, we hired well.
Yeah, you do a really good job. But like it's or they're just instilling, right? It's that environment. It's the culture, right? So culture starts to become part of your brand as well. And that's the thing you have to look at.
Well, long term though too, I think it all comes down to consistency and personality, right? A brand has a personality and you need to be consistent with that. And I think that is the hardest thing to maintain over time. But what you'll find is once you start instilling it, it becomes very normal. And it's not hard. It's just hard in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would agree. I think the phrase I've always gone back to is the best time to have started was 3 months ago. The second best time to start is now, right? And so just if you don't have a branding guideline, it's a great place to start, right? Sit down, figure out, and put out a templated document that's here's the logo. This is what it looks like on black, what it looks like on white. Here's our fonts that we use. Here's the header font, here's the body font. When it's a hyperlink, do you keep it to a brand color? Do you keep it blue, right? And putting that together and then sending that out to all of your employees, if you have nothing in place, helps them understand how they should be utilizing it.
Yeah, and even if it's off point it probably the consistency and the whole essence of it all tends to stay where it is.
Absolutely.
So why do you feel like branding is important?
I think branding is important because it can establish your company to do something that your company otherwise could not do, right? If you want to appear much bigger than you are, branding can do that, right? If you want to appear way more polished than every other competitor that's out there, branding does that for you, right? As I said, it's less about you and more about what you're trying to communicate to your prospective client, right? And what you want them to feel when they engage. So that's why I think it's important, because it can do a lot for your company.
It can.
That otherwise you wouldn't be able to do.
Well, here's the other side of it too, right? Humans are the only beings on earth that believe in things they can't touch and feel. And you cannot touch and feel a brand.
That's true.
Right?
Man, that's deep.
It's deep. It's not original for me, but it's very true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it
you
really
think
is.
about the corporations. I'll use Microsoft as an example. Everybody knows who Microsoft is because of their products. And people work there.
Yeah.
But can you go touch and feel that company?
I mean, what about the building?
It's a building.
That's true.
It's not a brand,
not
it's a building.
brand. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to get it right. And if it's off, it's off. People are believing in something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to build it in their mind to be something that does exist and it is real. And if I go to this company, no matter what part of this company, I'm going to get this from it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
sense.
why that is so important to go.
That makes a ton
to follow
of sense.
anyway.
Yeah, well, we would love to get a better understanding of our audience and have a idea of where you guys are in the branding process, right? Have you never put together a branding guideline? Have you sat down with a branding company and done focus groups and all that kinds of stuff? So leave us a comment below on whatever channel you're on right now. We have the podcast across multiple audio channels, and you can always find this on YouTube as well. But if you have any questions or anything that you want to reach out and maybe even a topic for us to cover later, reach out to us, agency@theglintstandard.com. We'd love to hear from you.